Hi, good morning. My name is Clara, and I'm here to talk to you about my project, The Social Break. The Social Break is mainly a platform that offers services in counseling, integrative nutrition, and health coaching. It is a platform that you will find kind of content of maybe some recommendations, nutritions, tips, lifestyle, motivation, consistency, and many other things. So I created the Social Break because of something that I was looking for myself. It has more of a coaching approach. So when I talk about coaching, I mean that I want to walk with you in your health journey. So I don't want to tell you what to do, and I don't want to be passively listening. I want to walk with you on that journey. I want to give you options and help you explore those options with you. I want you to tell me what works and what doesn't, and I want to be able to explore that change with you throughout that journey. So I think of the social break as an experience. So the social break is not only a platform, and it's not only the help. It's not about a method I created that worked for myself. It's about me finding a way to help you find that own health version for yourself. So if it looks a little bit abstract, let's think about a really simple example. An example would be something we can all relate to. Maybe you've lost track, you want to go back to the gym routine or exercise routine, whatever it is that works for you, but you don't know where to start. Do I change my diet? Do I change my habits? I don't even know what habit change look like. What kind of help do I need? Do I even need help? That all seems really overwhelming to a lot of people. So this way, I've created the Social Break so that you could have a different approach to a single problem. It is not something you might need help only with the nutrition aspect, but also about changing your mindset and about changing habits. So this way can create a long habit or a long-term habit, and instead of just giving you a recipe and just having you do it all by yourself, I'm just walking with you and helping you explore what works for you and not for me. So in the future, to expand this experience, I will also be planning to launch other products that might help you with that same alignment for your own goals. It is also about creating a community of people that are in the same experience that you are. So what does this look like? So sessions will be conducted online, hourly sessions. You can also have the option of putting support through text, which I believe it's really helpful for people my age or people that have conflicting schedules. So you can have online sessions and you can have that text support. And because we have a group of people that focus on different aspects of life, you can also have that holistic help in the different areas of life. There's also the option of getting the help specifically on the nutritional aspect, or just if you need a little bit more support on the mental health counseling area, you can also have that. Okay, so with that said, I do believe the mental health industry is changing, and I want to be part of that change. So with your investment in me today, I would start by getting someone that would help me in the digital marketing area, because that is not my area. I would also work to build my team and getting the certifications I need to make all of this happen. Thank you so much for your time.
The Social Break. Oh.
Yeah.
It's already on. Yeah. The Social Break. How did you come by the name?
Well, I didn't want the name to be something that would automatically be associated with nutrition or with fitness or with mental health. I want it to be a space. So it would kind of have more room and flexibility to kind of give it the approach that I wanted to. If I wanted to make it more about, it's just a break. You know, it's a space that I've created so that you can make it whatever you need to.
I'm curious about your customer discovery process at this point. Who have you talked to? How do you know this is needed? How do you know where to begin your focus for the platform?
Well, I do. So I do want to work on the mental health industry, but I've noticed that there are things that need to be changed, especially for people my age and people that, young adults that are starting to kind of find themselves and their work schedules and how health works for them. We know that in today's world, health is a pretty big thing, but it's constantly changing. There's a lot of information out there that we don't know how to use, and we don't even know if it works for us. We don't know. So we hear things and we try to implement them in our lives, and we don't even know where to start. So I think I've approached it more of about what I see around me, and because I'm in college and I'm here surrounded by students all the time, I think that's been really something that I'm putting into work, and that I've really listened to those needs about, do I even need therapy? What is therapy? Do I just need maybe coaching? Do I have to pay for a registered dietitian? Do I need a diet? So because we have a lot of information out there, that's why I put more of this coaching aspect to it.
So I'm curious about how you see your role. Like, it sounds initially like this might be a solopreneur business, and then you would build a team, or are you imagining a large team of people? So that's one question. Mm-hmm. And the other is, how are you gathering the expertise that you would need to be a resource for so many different areas of life, whether it's exercise, nutrition, right, therapy, mental health, other social or emotional needs that people have?
Okay, that's a really good question. So it is just me right now. I'm working towards a mental health license, and I'm also working towards a integrative nutrition certificate. I know I can't be all of those things at the same time, and I know fitness is not my specialty. Just like digital marketing is not my specialty. So I would really work towards a small team first that would help me in those areas that I can work with when we have, for example, a customer that needs support in those areas, so that we can create a small team and we can talk about this person and what kind of support they might need, so that we can give them this complete support. But yes, it is, for now, it's just me getting those certificates and just putting my own service out there until I can create a small team.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan to measure success with each individual client?
Well, I've always thought about that when you don't need me anymore. But the purpose of the coaching aspect is that there's actually been a lot of studies talking about how, even though coaching might not be helpful for a lot of, so in other words, I do recognize that there are things that I might not be able to help people in, and I also acknowledge and respect that I might not be the best help in some ways. But that doesn't mean that I can support them in other ways. And there's been studies that have shown that when a patient going through a treatment, a health treatment, has actually better outcomes when they have that support from a health coach. So it's not about just me having all the answers. It's about me being able to support you in the best way I can.
So one of the things I think I heard you say was that people don't know where to start. There's so much information about mm-hmm. health, nutrition, fitness, wellness, mm-hmm. Mental health. And so you're pursuing the expertise to be a resource, but then addressing the question of where do I start? How do you see yourself being able to curate from the wide array of options there are in each of those individual areas, whether it's nutrition? How do I approach nutrition? There are 500 ways to do that. How do I approach wellness? How do I approach my mental health needs when there are so many options? So how do you see yourself and your team being able to curate from the range of options?
Well, I think that really all of those answers will actually be given by the customer. So by doing what? Well, what makes this approach difference is that I'm not here to tell you about all of those things that I'm going to know. There are so many things out there. I'm not going to know all of them, but I am going to ask you what your career looks like. What do you work in? How does your schedule look like? I'm not going to give you a 360 change of your schedule. I'm just going to work with your schedule. So those answers are actually going to come from a conversation that I'm going to have with a customer. So what do you do? What works best for you? Do you like working in the early morning, or do you like working in the night? How do your meal schedule looks like? I'm not gonna tell you you have to eat 4 times a day, because maybe you don't have the time, or you don't go home, or you don't like eating out. Whatever it is that your specific case is, I'm not gonna work towards finding someone that is out there. I'm gonna work towards finding something that works for you. So I believe did I answer your question?
Sort of.
Okay.
I'm curious, 5 years from now, what does this business look like to you?
I don't believe I have gotten that far, but I'm gonna give you.
A year from now.
Okay. So let's say in a couple years from now, I do have a small team working for this, and I have this community of people in different platforms that are coming mainly from the information that I'm putting out there, and they're getting this service more in a long-term fashion, let's say 3 to 6 months. My goal is so that not even after a year you've found this version of health and you're good to go, and you can always come back to the support. But looking at clients daily, online sessions, having this small team, communicating internally about these clients and how we can better support them. I also talked about products. I think that's something that really encourages me towards this, because I do think that I can make something really nice for people to use and to have that support in that aspect, if that makes sense.
I know that you've said that you plan to bring on a marketing expertise onto your team.
Mm-hmm.
What have you, how far have you gone in thinking about, say, age demographics, your target age demographics, and other kind of dimensions to who your ripest customer base is coming from, where it's coming from?
So right now I'm just working with 2 different platforms. One of them is Instagram. So I'm thinking about just working with Instagram, just because it's actually the platform that I know most about. So I'm just working with that for now. It's also a platform that I believe people from 18 to 35, pretty much all of them have access to and utilize them constantly, if not daily. So that's kind of what I'm working with right now in terms of how to get to people in that way. I have not really gone that far, just because I don't have that knowledge and I would really like that support. I am starting to think about how it looks like in different platforms and what platforms might be the best to use for the people that I want to get to.
So one quick question about sort of the packaging of your services.
Mm-hmm.
So in the evaluation of programs and services, people look at dosage, like how much time do you need? How much exposure do you need to something for it to be impactful? Frequency, how often do you need it? And over time. So have you thought about how you're packaging your services in terms of how often, and over what period of time?
Can I answer that, or? Sure. Okay. I'm just gonna really quickly go over it. So I have thought about that, and I believe, just because of how I've based myself a lot of in psychoanalysis treatments, and I actually I've gone through those, and those talk about 3 months and 6 months. aspects. So I don't want to give you a 6-month commitment when you don't need it, and I don't want to not give you the option of a more commitment if you need it. So that will kind of just, work as we go, I guess. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Uma Parani, and with my venture, Bodhi, I hope to be reinventing the realm of educational technology. So Bodhi's purpose is to be an engaging, healthy, and dynamic educational technology tool that focuses on each student's individual learning requirements so that we can improve their overall growth as a human and student, and so that we can improve their true comprehension of everything that they learn online. And through this, the greater goal is to reshape the way that younger generations view education. We want them to be motivated and passionate when it comes to learning, rather than seeing it as a chore. I have been teaching since I was in 6th grade. I have taught students from all sorts of backgrounds. I have taught neurodivergent students. I have taught students from low-income backgrounds. I have taught students of color. And I have seen firsthand that depending on the environment that one has grown up in, depending on just how their brain works, every student learns in a different way. Every single human is different in the way they absorb information. But existing educational technology platforms conform to one singular model of showing you videos and then forcing you to take quizzes on it. Not every student benefits when they're forced to learn this way. Not every student likes listening to lectures. Not every student gains the most when they have to memorize facts just so they can be quizzed on it. But especially during the past few years, when educational technology became a staple in most schools because of the pandemic, a lot of students, we have seen their motivation drop because they weren't learning using these educational technology platforms. They weren't actually absorbing information. I know personally, I don't remember anything I learned in world history because it was all just videos and quizzes, and that's not how I learned best. So that's a problem that exists today, and we want to solve that by creating a classroom supplement that uses artificial intelligence and neural networks to take in information about each student and create a personalized learning path that suits them best. So we'll ask them questions like, do you learn best with noise around you? Do you learn best when you're doing hands-on activities? So they're a kinesthetic learner. Based on the answers we receive to these questions, we'll create a learning path for them in whatever subject it is they're trying to learn about that provides them with activities and learning models that fit their learning style best. So if our placement quiz does figure out that they're a kinesthetic learner, we will try to teach, say, math to them using hands-on activities like creating models of prisms, other activities like that, so that they don't feel like they have to just watch videos and memorize facts that are they're learning through auditory sources. We also hope to be more accessible and inclusive. A lot of the times, neurodivergent and disabled students are left out of the model of educational technology platforms. So we're hoping that through this personalized pathway, we'll be able to cater to those kinds of mindsets and neural setups better. So what sets us apart from existing educational technology? First of all, we're adaptive. We're not static. We don't stick to just one teaching model. Depending on what you need as a learner, we conform to your needs rather than asking you to conform to ours. We also hope to be entirely free so that it's completely accessible and no one is barred from having a high quality education. These are some of the phases of developing the startup. And this is a quick prototype that I've created. When they're starting out, we give them a placement test that figures out what kind of learner they are, what would suit them best. And once they're a current user, we start off every session with sort of a mental check-in to make sure they're ready to actually learn today. If they're stressed, we might give them a breathing exercise, something like this, to get them in the mood. And then we would get them ready to explore whatever it is they want to learn for that day. That is Bodhi.
Well done.
Thank you.
The name, where did it come from?
I'm Hindu, so when I've been teaching, it's always the concepts of my religion that have, I think, guided me to be a better teacher. And so words like guru and bodhi, I keep in mind when I'm working with my students. Bodhi is the kind of tree that Buddha sat under when he attained nirvana, and we want every student to be enlightened in their own way. So that's the inspiration for that.
Have you checked out, do you have a domain name for Bodhi?
I do not yet.
Go ahead.
I'm curious about, have you started talking to potential customers yet? What's your customer base?
My customer base, I want this to be accessible directly to students, especially, like right now I'm thinking nationwide, but the broader goal is to make this accessible to students everywhere. There are a lot of students who, of course, cannot go to school. But I think I would first reach out to educators, since this is, it's not meant to replace teachers, of course. That would be impossible. It's meant to be a classroom supplement to make teachers feel less overwhelmed, because it's impossible to expect them to cater to every student's individual need. So when I was in high school, I was talking to the technology superintendent. She was a close mentor of mine, and she expressed interest in this. She helped me do a lot of the planning for like how it would look, so structuring the idea. So that would be my base.
I'm curious about how you would go about providing tools for people who, in a two-dimensional online platform, that would really cater to people's needs, to those who are kinesthetic learners, for example. So how would you supplement, how would you create kinesthetic activities on geometry, or, so how would you bring a three-dimensional element into a two-dimensional delivery?
That's probably the hardest one, the hardest learning style to accommodate online. What I was thinking for now with limited resources is we would have videos or a list of instructions that explained to students how to create their own at-home labs. Say if they were studying chemistry or something, how to create your own lab at home with resources you definitely have at home, so it's still accessible. If they were learning math, then I'm not really remembering the word for it, but when I was in like elementary school, they had us cut out paper shapes and glue it together to create cubes and stuff, so stuff like that to help these learners understand math concepts better, or creating tetrahedrons, like an artistic piece out of geometrical shapes to help them better understand these concepts. In the future, we would want to use different technological sources, such as maybe sensors. One of the projects I've created in the past was like a virtual reality tool where they could use their hands, as long as their hands were hovering over a motion sensor, they could basically play around with molecules and compounds virtually. So something like that, if we were able to make these motion sensors more accessible in classrooms to students, then doing something like that to get them even more involved with science or math or whatever they're learning.
Help me understand the role of AI in this process of determining the individual learning pathways. How deep does that, how sophisticated is that AI, or is it simply, as the Bodhi tree says, if you go on one branch and they're answering certain questions, it just automatically kicks into a set of other specific options for that? Or is there something more?
Hopefully, ideally, there would be something underlying. There would be, since our target audience is like K through 12 students, we obviously cannot be asking like younger students very deep questions about their personality or what suits them best. So we'd have to ask them very simple surface level questions. Then based on that, we would hope to detect, and this is specifically focusing on neurodivergence, if there is some level of neurodivergence, like if they're anywhere on the spectrum, and then how we could accommodate to that. So that's not something we can be asking the customer. So the artificial intelligence algorithm would sort of have to, it would have to be fitted to a model that understands, okay, if they're answering with these certain questions, maybe they're on this side of the spectrum, and so these are the resources that will help them most.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm curious about how, like, there are multiple things happening on this platform, right? There's the content delivery and a variety of ways to teach the same content, the same lesson. And then there's the engagement in learning piece, which is a whole other, much more emotional element. And I'm wondering, I'm curious about how you see marrying those two things inside the platform. Is it straight up like a variety of forms of encouragement in terms of like lighting the fire for learning, but also motivating students to continue to use the program?
Yeah, so I think there's a focus on mental health in this platform. So like I said, we would give them the little check-ins at the start of every session. If maybe we'd use the Pomodoro technique, so if we notice they've been studying for more than 25 minutes, we would encourage them to get a glass of water, take a 5-minute break, or not even encourage, we would simply pause their learning session, and they could not come back and resume until 5 minutes were up, forcing them to have a healthy outlook when it comes to studying and learning. And yes, we would provide like words of encouragement constantly. I think the current educational system tends to be very punitive. You get marks off on tests for getting things wrong, and a lot of times that can detract from the spark that students have for learning. So we would try to be not punitive as possible, only increasing the number of points, never making students feel bad for messing up or taking away points for them, things like that, to improve their outlook on education and the pursuit of knowledge.
And who do you see as your customer? Is it the students themselves? Is it teachers in the classroom? If it's a classroom supplement, is it parents? Is it all of the above?
I think it's all of the above. Like the target audience is K through 12 students for now. But if teachers want to create like their own little classroom groups and then assign work, that would be a possibility. If parents want to do it to help their students get ahead, study in healthier ways, then that would be a possibility too.
Can you talk a little bit more about sort of any testing or customer discovery sorts of things you've done at this point?
I haven't really done anything yet. I've only just started development, so I haven't been able to test it, but I have been talking to my past teachers, and they have expressed interest in it. So I've only done very surface level market testing, not actual research and development testing.
Have you thought about ways of measuring progress and success of the students that are using the platform?
I have. I think that's the biggest roadblock I'm hitting right now. Sort of incentivizing students, making sure they're actually growing and progressing, because we want to, like if they don't benefit from taking tests, then we don't want to force them to take tests, but also we need a sort of benchmark, a sort of measurement to make sure that they're actually understanding each concept. So I think for that, I need to get into contact with educational specialists, psychologists, specifically child psychologists, to understand how I can create those sort of benchmarks, especially online.
I'm curious, what does this company look like 2 years from now, 5 years from now for you?
I still want it to be entirely free. So there, like in an idealistic world, there would never be any freemium plans or pro plans. It should be accessible to everyone. I want it to be helping people all across the world. So translations, resources in all kinds of languages meant for all sorts of students. And hopefully I'd also like to increase the customer base, so it's not just K through 12 students, because learning really doesn't stop once you graduate high school. You can learn at any age, and a lot of times I've noticed, especially senior citizens in my community have wanted to learn newer topics so that they could connect with younger generations better, and so this tool would hopefully bridge that gap as well.
The fact that something is free doesn't mean it doesn't cost money. And I see donations as a revenue stream, but also the fact that it's free to users doesn't mean that people, that key stakeholders would not be willing to pay to have this available to students, whether it's education systems or other community kinds of organizations or business sectors that are invested.
Thank you.
Thanks for pointing me to that. So is there no revenue in this model? I mean, if it's entirely free and, I mean, there are donations, but there's no fee
There's
for
no
service?
customer revenue, no.
Okay. I would, yeah.
Sandtronics, a mechanical sanding device that encourages high-quality, sustainable wood production. We support authentic builders while removing their employees from harmful, boring labor. Industry. This country was built on our lumber production, our ships, our tables and chairs, our timber frame houses. But those are increasingly being replaced by cheap MDF particle board, which gets thrown out and contributes to the waste problem. There's a reason for this, is that wood is rough in its initial form. You gotta smooth out the wood somehow. And we accomplish this via sanding. Now there's a difference between what the consumer uses to sand and what the big manufacturers use. The small, versatile, portable, cheap sander versus the big, cumbersome, yet automatic drum sander. I was stuck with a little sander since 5th grade, sanding beams in my father's timber framing business, and I can tell you the vibrations and the boredom resulting from sanding is astronomical. Not to mention the injuries, vibration syndrome, and poor posture. According to a Canadian study from ScienceDirect.com, sanding vibrations directly contributed to workers' skeletal muscular problems. So what is the device I made to mitigate this? Sandtronics is a Roomba, but for wooden beams. How do you build it? Well, first you take the person and you upgrade them to a better job. It's more exciting. And you attach that sander to a system of drive pulleys and rollers to keep it from rolling off the end of the beam. And you apply that to this device, the Sandtronics Roughness Remover. What better way to get acquainted with this amazing device than to watch a tutorial on how to use it? So first you adjust the table, then you roll it onto the large wooden beam. You want to tighten the guide rollers so it doesn't fall off. That would be upsetting. And then you set it in motion. And it takes about 3 minutes to sand to make one pass like you're seeing. And when it gets to the other side, you adjust the sander for more coverage. And then you set it back the other way. Another 3 to 6 minutes of time. You can step away and do other things. Now, the benefits of this machine is that it makes sanding easier for employees. It encourages use of rough sawn lumber because builders can buy it. They can more easily turn it into finished quality wood. And I am certain this device fits the criteria of resilient infrastructure and inclusive, diverse industries. The underlying magic is low-tech plywood technology. It's green, it's environmentally friendly, it's easily understandable by the consumer. I plan to build this device, then demonstrate it to the local craftsmen, and sell it to them. What is the impact of selling the Sandtronics Roughness Remover? Well, here you have the normal lumber supply chain where wood is taken from a poorly managed forest, is pumped into a factory, which produces a lot of CO2, and then it's marked up at the retail stores and sold to the unhappy customer. And those high prices are passed on to the people they're building for. But with the Sandtronics, you have the lumber straight from the forest to a local sawmill. It's sold at a cheap price to the builder, and they can sand it themselves, cutting down on the overhead. Social? Of course. I've demonstrated this device to a group of 10 people that attended our lunch time for a social event, and they all loved the device. They basically couldn't get enough of it, and I showed them exactly how it works. And they said, we love everything made out of wood. We're timber framers. But attention is a limited resource. So what am I competing with? Over there on the left, you can see the Slabmiser MB200, which is the only comparable device I can think of right now, I can find. It's $17,000, and it takes up the floor space of 3 beds. Valuable floor space. It's complicated, but it does produce a nice finish. See, the Sandtronics Roughness Remover checks the boxes of being an amazing sanding device, but it's also inexpensive, affordable to the average person. So why am I the best person to develop this technology? I'm a mechanical engineering student, and you can see the difference between that prototype, which burned out after a few hours, and this one, which has already sanded dozens of beams, and I don't foresee it ever breaking. Now, this is where I need your help, the funding. If I could buy 10 motors, hundreds of dollars of plywood, thousands of dollars, and build 10 prototypes, I would. But this is where we need resources to start development, to make sure it's really a customer-friendly device. And I'm committed to finding responsibly sourced materials. But enough of me talking. That's not very social. I'd like to hear some questions. Mm-hmm.
How much will it cost your customer, the initial?
The initial product?
Yeah.
Yesterday I said $2,000. A lot of people said it's saving so much time and money, it would be worth a lot more. But I could easily make the part count lower and sell it at an affordable $2,000 price. And many craftsmen have this money to spend because they're willing to invest in their tools to save time and money.
It looks like a device that somebody would have to pick up and put onto the beam. How much does it weigh?
Well, it weighs about 65 pounds, and we're working on getting a better, lighter weight device. But as you can see, there's a table here, which is height adjustable, and it's on a rolling cart. So you can adjust the height of the table, roll it over to the beam, and push it on without lifting it up. And I was teaching my mom how to do this towards the end of the summer. So.
Did you have a follow-up? Can you talk a little bit more about sort of the social impact of the Sandtronics?
Of course. So I would like to say that the lumber problem, the forests that they harvest from are often younger trees, which are lower quality. You want aged trees to make good quality, long-lasting structures, and they often don't have the resources to produce that at a mass scale. And the retail markup of these prices, I agree that most people don't want to spend $150 for a piece of plywood. And the contractors don't actually care that much about the cost of the wood because the customers are the ones paying for it, those who want to build a house. But an example of this is last year we couldn't find joists for building a house near my home for a client. And so we went to a local sawmill which had these beautiful rough sawn boards, and they were about $20 a piece. The ones at the store were $80. So that's the amount of money it was saving. It cuts it by a factor of 4 at least.
Have you extrapolated out to a full building, a full house, and how much savings that would equate to?
So I don't think, there's a graph that I made, which is not in this presentation, but it shows that in a week, the number of timber frames you could sand with a regular hand sander is about just half a timber frame. But with the Sandtronics, you can sand 1.2 or over 1 house worth of wood. So it saves at least 40 hours in labor per house. And it's even more than that, I believe, because you can step away from the device and do other things. There's a lot of factors at play to determine exactly how much money it's saving everyone.
Do you have a sense of the size of your market, and is this going to be a national rollout or a regional rollout? And is it just people, housing contractors who are building, or does it have other applications?
That's a great question for expansion. Right now, I'm looking at phase 1. it's just sell to people in the New England area who are timber framers and craftsmen and hobbyists if they're interested. I'm open to selling to anyone at any time, but we focus on New England timber framers because the housing market is insane. Everyone wants to build right now, and there's plenty of wood to sand, plenty of people who want their houses built for less money. I believe phase 2 would come along in a few years where I would either license this technology to a tool company, or I would find a factory to produce them on a larger scale, and I would sell them to builders and timber framers all across the country.
You talked about not wanting to use disposable wood, particle board, et cetera, and you clearly have a solid wood construction. Have you thought about using recycled plastic or other materials that are environmentally friendly, which would create a sturdy but lighter Sandtronics?
Yes, I could absolutely do that. If I just had big sheets of plastic, I could easily cut them on regular bandsaws and tools and all the stuff I currently have access to. I could definitely build this device out of recycled materials, and it would be lighter.
Can you talk a little bit about the 10 prototypes that you would build, and who would you give them to start testing this product?
Mm-hmm. So with such a new idea, there are many paths I want to explore. So if you make it wider, just make it like the rollers can go like 4 feet wide, it can stand big tables then, right? You take basically the same device and you attach a grinder to it, then it can stand rust off of steel beams. So, but all these have specific challenges. You have to make like the rollers heavier duty or different shape. You want to have sometimes rollers that go underneath the device for a steel beam maybe. And those prototypes would be something I would work on this winter.
Are there any sharp things that could break off and hurt somebody during operation?
Mm-hmm. Well, there definitely are. You can see there's some brackets and attachments because the device doesn't feature all the options I originally wanted to. I wanted to return automatically once it gets to the end of the beam, but there are customer-friendly handles right here, and it's hidden behind that. But there are 2 very nice big handles. You can just pick it up. For some people, it might be difficult, but we're working on getting it lighter.
Those 10, you said you demonstrated it to a group of about 10 people. Were they construction professionals or?
Well, let me clarify. They all took a timber framing class for Shelter Institute, which is an institution in Maine that's run by my grandfather, and they were all class of 1989. And they wanted to come over and see my dad because I think he taught alongside them back then. But they're more they know how to build a timber frame, but they're more in line with the average person.
I'm curious a little bit about, can you just dig a little bit deeper into the prototypes? So if your next step, you have 10 prototypes. Are they all the same, or are you thinking about using those prototypes to move into sanding metal, and mm-hmm. who's using those prototypes?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the easiest path to take would be to keep making this device, but the next one I make would be smaller and lighter and include fewer sharp edges, as you mentioned. And I would market it to timber framers. But in the background, you're always working on new ideas and maybe some new concepts. That could easily take a grinder to sand steel beams right now. But primarily it would be for making new wood sanding devices for large timber frames.
So it looks like you're using a rotary sanding
mm-hmm.
device with this, right?
Yes.
So how easy is it for the user to change the sandpaper or whatever is being used for the desired outcome?
Yeah. So if basically right under here, there's a spring clip that you can release and just remove the sander, and then you can just peel the paper off and replace it back on. So it's relatively simple.
And how often do you need to change that?
Basically, if it annoys you, you change it, and usually I do that like every 20 beams or so. Like with a new house, you want to have a fresh sandpaper on there, but it does last a good time.
Now, if you could invent the sandpaper that doesn't lose its capacity, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and there's a
Another business.
there's a great difference between the qualities of different brands. Like Shopsmith is the best one that we use. Some of them are outright garbage, but that's a definite concern with a standing device. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I first want to start with why I'm here. You know, over the past few months, it's come to my attention that there's a growing water crisis in the United States and across the world. Yeah, most recently, in Jackson, Mississippi, there was a critical water infrastructure failure that has led to, as you can see in the pictures, black water coming out of faucets, very unhealthy water coming out of the faucets for the residents, and it's having tremendous impact on the people of Jackson, Mississippi. And it also reminded me of the crisis that happened in Flint, Michigan a few years ago. So there's been a history of this occurring. And you know, water scarcity is not just about thirst. There's real public health, economic, and societal impacts on the people when there's water scarcity. And as you can see, unfortunately, that cholera and typhoid fever are one of the two most common diseases spread by water scarcity. And as you can see, it can have a devastating impact on young people especially. And so that's why at Miracle Water we believe that everyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, should have clean water to drink. And the way we intend to do that is through the power of the atmospheric water generator. The atmospheric water generator is able to draw moisture out of the air, purify it, and produce potable water. I found this great animation online that will demonstrate just that. So as you can see, moist air flows in through the air filters at the top of the machine. And there are air filters at the top of the machine that remove dust and dirt and other impurities so they don't end up in the water. Once that moist air is filtered, it's cycled through a cooling system that cools the moist air and causes the water to condense inside the moist air. And then the water falls into this buffer tank down below. And then it is sent through multiple filters, membrane and carbon filters, and exposed to UV light to kill off microorganisms. Once that's complete, we have clean water to drink. And there are also many competitors on the market right now. There are many other atmospheric water generator companies that market themselves based on their patented technology and also the health benefits of drinking clean water. Furthermore, there are bottled water companies that benefit from the status quo because when people don't want to drink their tap water, they buy bottled water instead. And consumers, most importantly, recognize the vital importance of drinking clean water. And so these two sectors market themselves to that. And so the way we plan to differentiate is by having a lower cost of production and also making our prototype rely on renewable energy. Because a lot of the AWGs on the market right now are expensive and they rely on electricity from the grid. And electricity from the grid most often is powered via fossil fuels and contributes to climate change. And furthermore, our intention is to focus strongly on customer relationships and logistics systems to drop the price of our product and be successful in the market. And the way we intend to achieve those differentiators is by teaming up with experienced professors in relevant fields. So for example, I've already networked with Professor Noor Junaid and Professor Iqbal within the OIM department to work on the logistics part of things. And my intention is to also network with other professors in the College of Engineering to work on the prototype of this design, of this product. And then also our plan is to partner with other student clubs on campus so we can get essentially free help. And when it comes to target markets, we have really three customer segments. Number one, we want to use this product in disaster relief areas. So we want this product to be on the back of FEMA trucks. So when the FEMA trucks pull in after a devastating hurricane, there's water on site ready to go. We also want this in people's homes so they have an alternative to bottled and tap water. And finally, we want to sell this to campers and hunters who go off the grid for extended periods of time, but they still want clean water to drink. And so, it really comes back to why, right? Scientists are saying that we're probably not going to hit the 1.5 degrees Celsius benchmark to avert climate change. And it seems like water crisis is going to be a part of the future. So I think it's really important that we take the time to innovate solutions and tackle this problem head on.
Very cool.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you're entering into this space that already exists with a lower cost product.
Yeah.
It also sounds like there's a portability to the product, or one of the varieties or variations on the product. So can you talk about how it goes from like a building application to a mobile application?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was looking at an EPA study, Environmental Protection Agency, and they did a study on the two market leaders, WaterGen and EcoloBlue. And the way they sectioned out each product is by a home unit, a medium unit, and a large unit. So a home unit can produce roughly 30 liters per day, medium 900, and large unit 10,000. So within a building setting, like you were saying, we would probably use a large unit. And it's very simple. Like, obviously, there's a lot of engineering knowledge behind it, but the concept is the same. It's just increasing the capacity. So blowing up the product like 40x, for example.
Can you talk a little bit more about two of the things you cited as ways you were going to differentiate were customer relationships and logistics systems. Can you talk more deeply about both of those aspects in terms of your differentiation in the marketplace?
Yeah. So when it comes to customer relationships, really when it comes to the marketing part of it, my intention is to pursue a viral marketing strategy. So my intention is to get in touch with journalists and other media outlets, and preferably social media health influencers like Dr. Oz, for example, to market this product. And then obviously, SEO and social media and the whole 9 yards, those are kind of by default. And then also, I don't have all the answers in that space right now, but my plan is to partner with the marketing professors in Eisenberg to develop a more concrete plan. And then when it comes to logistics, that's something that's not very clear right now either, because we have to figure out the shipping of this and the manufacturing of this. But, plan is to partner with the two OIM professors I mentioned to tackle both the information side and the supply chain side.
So you do plan to manufacture your own units?
Yeah, so that's something, so it's really twofold. We could either manufacture it abroad or we could manufacture it here, and it really comes down to cost. Right now, I don't know which one is going to be more cost effective, but depending on which is more cost effective, that's the option we would pursue. Yeah.
And you believe you can make units that are less expensive than the competitors?
Yeah.
How is that achieved?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really have a two-pronged approach to that. Number one, we plan to partner with an institute called the Biomimicry Institute in California. And the Biomimicry Institute works with companies to develop a product that mimics nature. And so my idea is by mimicking nature, it will hopefully be a more efficient product. Also, my plan is to have the product run completely on renewable energy. And as renewable energy continues to become more and more mainstream, the cost of that is going to be lower than, say, fossil fuels.
Are you thinking solar or other fuel cell, hydrogen fuel cell? What kind of renewable energy?
Yeah. So it's really dependent on the place, right? So if this was, say, in a place where it's really sunny, right? So like maybe down south or California where there's a lot of sun, solar panels would be more logical. But if it was, say, a place that was really windy, for example, then we would try to incorporate, wind turbines to generate energy.
Do you see an international application to this? It sounds like you're oriented toward the U.S. market.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to, really my plan right now is kind of a more targeting the niches strategy, right? Because we need to get a foothold in the market first. So by focusing on, say, FEMA and individual buyers in their homes and on campers, we'll be able to be more targeted in our approach. But eventually, of course, our plan needs to align with our vision of everyone having clean water to drink. So ideally, expanding to India, for example, would be a great option because they have water scarcity issues there, and there's a huge population, and it's a warm and humid environment, which is very important for an atmospheric water generator.
Can you talk some about the customer discovery work that you've already done? I know you mentioned sort of beachhead markets that are here in the U.S., disaster relief, homes, campers and hunters. Who have you talked to so far? Why would I use this product versus the one that's already available to me on the market?
Right. Yeah, so in terms of customer discovery, unfortunately, I'm a first-year freshman, so I haven't been able to sit down and interview customers, for example. But what I have been able to do is do lots of market research, and I've looked at market studies and reports. And the biggest thing on consumers' minds is the health benefits of drinking clean water. They recognize that, in order to stay healthy, I need to drink clean water. So that's the main market driver right now, and that's what we really want to target, like the other companies were.
Is there anything else you would like to tell us about your product?
In terms of, we could go to cost, for example. So I looked at the EPA study that I mentioned earlier, and when it comes to cost per liter, the cost for a home/office unit is 7 to 13 cents. A medium-sized unit is 6 to 14 cents, and a large unit is 6 to 9 cents per liter. When you compare that to the bottled water industry for single-serve and multi-serve, so single-serve being like your average Poland Spring water bottle, and multi-serve being a 5-gallon water bottle you can use multiple times, the cost per liter is 38 cents and 49 cents respectively. So when it comes to cost, the atmospheric water generator market is winning by a lot. And so, over the coming years, when you look at year-over-year growth, I'm expecting the atmospheric water generator market to eventually overcome the bottled water market.
What does this company look like in 5 years to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't thought about it too much, but really right now I'm moving into the prototyping phase. So I'm looking to get technical prowess in this region, which is hopefully I'm going to connect with Gregory and the Berthium Center and get more resources on that. But yeah, really in 5 years, hopefully we have a functional prototype. We have a full C-suite of executives, and we're selling this a lot to people we've already targeted. We've gained a foothold in our niches, and we're looking to expand to other areas.
And I'm going to push you a little bit more again. So I've got an atmospheric water generator now. Why am I switching? I mean, because I've probably invested a bunch in the one I've got. If it's still working, why am I switching?
Yeah. So it really comes back to most of the atmospheric water generators on the market use non-renewable energy. So they use electricity from the grid. When it comes to targeting climate change, we need products that function based off of renewable energy. And so, my plan to differentiate from AWG you already have, for example, is by running it off of renewable energy. Also, having strong customer relationships and strong business fundamentals are important there too. So that's why I listed customer relationships and logistics systems as well. Does that answer it, or? Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, my name is Will, and I'm here with Awkward. Did you know that approximately 23,240,000 people in the United States suffer with social anxiety, according to the National Institute of Mental Health? The problem is that those who grow up with social anxiety, they oftentimes don't socialize with other people enough due to their anxiety, and this causes them to not develop the critical social skills that they need to develop when they're younger. As a result, they don't actually reach out to other people in the future, and they never develop the social confidence that they get from challenging that social anxiety. As a result, they never actually end up being able to grow and overcome the social anxiety. And so the real problem is that socially anxious people need a way for them to gain social skills. As Walter Anderson once said, nothing diminishes anxiety faster than action, and we couldn't possibly agree more, which is why we are proposing a solution that helps people develop social skills in an app that helps people develop social skills through artificial intelligence. So there are 3 components to our app. The first component is that it allows people to connect with each other and socialize in a safe space. The second component is the artificial intelligence feature, which allows people to improve their social skills by getting continuous feedback on how they are interacting with other people. And the third component that we're going to build out a little bit later is the in-person ability, allowing users to form location-based social skills groups to practice bridging the gap between socializing with strangers in an app and socializing with strangers in person. And this is where we target the third goal of the United Nations 17 Goals for Development, which is good health and well-being. We have been in multiple competitions last year and this year, so to cover how we have grown over time, we started after the fall 2021, after the EU launch, where we won 2nd place and we got $700. We then went into the Innovation Challenge in the spring, where we competed and almost made it into the 2nd round. And at the same time, we started performing customer discovery. In fall 2022, we started MVP development, and we have also won the 1st place at the Minute Pitch. And going into the spring, we will be doing MVP testing and machine learning model development. We have the minimum viable product under development right now, and we expect it to be done in March, which we are on timeline for that. Our team consists of myself and my business partner, Kim. Kim has multiple experience building multiple web development applications from scratch to deployment. He has experience in several web development programming languages as well as app programming languages, and he heads software development. I head the business development. I've built 2 businesses in the past, and I've grown up in business. My parents own a business, and that's where I've spent most of my life. Our artificial intelligence will help users in 3 primary ways. It will help users, guide users into conversations through a tutorialized process, similar how a game starts, you get tutorialized into that process. We will start that by when you join and you sign up, you will be guided into the first conversations such that we can get you over that initial hump of actually starting to talk to people and get you over that first hurdle such that users don't just sign up and then not engage. The second way it'll help users, it'll provide them with feedback. And the third way is it'll provide them suggestions for what they should do going forward and how they should modify their behavior. Our competition really breaks down into 2 categories. We have social media companies and therapy. Social media companies, our primary competitors there are Discord, Reddit, and Facebook, where you can form groups would be groups of people that have social anxiety. But our app stands out from other social media platforms in that it helps users develop their social skills through a trial and error approach, similar to how you would socialize in real life and learn social skills through real life, just in an expedited manner. We stand up from therapy services in a matter of that we are affordable and easy to access. You can access us anytime throughout any day and get continuous feedback and growth as opposed to weekly meetings. It also is much more affordable than most therapy services out there. Our financials break down to that we are looking for $5,000 to help us acquire data for the model and $10,000 to help us train that data for the model. We need to purchase large data sets of text messages that we can use then to have social worker students go through, train the model using this data such that the model can accurately predict what is good social behavior and what is not. And so that is really where the majority of our costs break down. And so far we have $1,700 from $700 from the U-Launch Fall 2021, where we won 2nd place, and $1,000 from the Minute Pitch Fall 2022, where we won 1st place due to our impact and feasibility. We are right now looking to be able to reach everybody in the United States with, who has social anxiety, but we're going to start local and start to scale our way up from there, trying to help people build these social groups within small locations such that they can then bridge that gap into the in-person social skills groups and be able to form these close-knit networks of people who also have social anxiety, and they can grow together. Thank you.
Can you take us through one more time the initial user experience?
Yes. So when a user signs up, they will be first asked what their interests are, such that we can kind of get a guide of how to match them with other users. And then they will also be asked if they're willing to use their location. And if they are willing to use their location, then we would be also using that to match them with other users. They will then be recommended several users to start talking to, and they will be guided into those conversations in a tutorialized manner, such as say this, say this, say this, and then you're already over that first hurdle because those people will start responding over time. Every user that you're talking to is going to be anonymous from the beginning, and you will only get to reveal those details of who they are throughout the conversation. So as the conversation goes on, more of their profile become unblurred, and you'll be able to start to understand more about that person, such that it lowers the risk of being judged right from the beginning, and you can focus more on the conversation as opposed to the person that you're talking to.
So is this an educational tool that will teach me how to have less social anxiety, or am I actually interacting with other people who have social anxiety and learning in that process, or both?
It's more of the second possibility, where you're talking to other users, but you're getting feedback from a third entity, the artificial intelligence tool, which is providing you and the user you're talking to with separate feedback on how to improve your social skills. But it looks holistically at all the conversations you're having and looks for patterns of behavior that you're making that are not good social skills and advise you on how to change them going forward, as well as in the individual conversation you're having, mistakes you've made and suggestions for going forward, such that you can grow from a holistic approach. So it's both talking to other users but who have social anxiety, but also learning the social skills along the way.
Can you talk a little bit about the MVP that you're building and how you will sort of beta test that?
Yes, so we are going to do a smokescreen test with our MVP. We're building out a version of an app that will have two users talking to each other, while a third user that the first two users don't know is actually a person sits in another room and provides the feedback. And we're going to gauge how well the users that are interacting with each other are responding to that feedback, how much they value that feedback and such. We've already done customer discovery interviews that have shown that people who are socially anxious feel that the social skills, learning social skills, would help them overcome their social anxiety. And so at this point, we just need to prove that they would actually accept it from an app, and that they would, if they believe it's coming from a machine learning model, that they will actually consider real data to improve themselves based on.
And where will you find the folks that are going to join in this test?
We're going to look locally at UMass Amherst. We're going to try to start talking to, we're starting conversations with the Center for Psychiatric Health, or Center for Counseling and Psychological Health Services here. And we're trying to start finding people there that are socially anxious that could then talk on the app, while we could have potentially a therapist or somebody similar sit as the artificial entity and act as this artificial intelligence in the background, such that the feedback these users would be getting would be actually good feedback that would replicate what the machine learning model would be providing.
So is the machine actually going to be learning from the feedback that the therapist provides to the individuals?
No. So the feedback that the therapist would be providing would just be for the two individuals to see. We're going to start the machine learning development about that time, but the machine learning model would really learn from the skills we're teaching it through these data sets. And so we're going to have to hire a bunch of social worker students. That's the most feasible way we can do it, and to have them go through and mark these text messages and these large data sets as good, bad, and why. And so then this data set, the machine learning model can then take all that data in, start to learn what is good and what is bad behavior. And then through supervised machine learning, what will then happen is we feed it more data, and it'll start judging it on its own, and then we correct it and say, this is good behavior, you're right, or this is bad behavior, but you marked it as good behavior. So the machine learning model could then learn from its mistakes and then get better and better before we release it.
In terms of revenue streams, I see that you're targeting ads.
Yes.
And then there are games that you're thinking. Have you considered, and discounted, having the users pay for service, whether it be upfront or in a premium or a set of premium services?
So we've considered a premium set of services. What we've kind of pivoted our thought there, and we're starting to look into it, is having, if we can, once we get it starting to develop and starting to get a user base going, is going to therapist centers and trying to have them recommend it to patients and having insurance companies pay for it. If we can get therapists to back it and say that they believe this would be an effective treatment to complement their therapy sessions with these patients. So if we make it, say, $10 a month, this therapist that's getting paid way more could say, this is an effective way that we could complement these therapy sessions we're having on their social anxiety so that they could improve week by week and we can actually work our way forward. And they could tell their insurance agency that they need that covered. And so that's what we're really looking for in that area, because we do want it to be accessible to most patients and to most people who are socially anxious. But in the beginning, we're going to start off with ads, and then we may expand into a subscription model based on whether or not we think that most people could afford it and whether or not we think insurance companies will cover it.
Can you talk more about your primary customer base and give me the customer persona? What does that person
Absolutely.
or persons
So
look like?
Our primary target is 15 to 29-year-olds. We're looking ideally at high schoolers and college students, and that's where we've done our customer discovery. Our average user is somebody who is on the younger side. They trust apps. They use apps a lot. They use their phone a lot to socialize with other people. They're used to chat-based interfaces, and they have social anxiety. And so they might be somebody who's on their phone a lot. They might be texting people normally, and then they're going to now go to our app so that they can text people and they can get that feedback as they go through. We're really looking primarily to model the user base of Yik Yak, an anonymous app that allows people to talk to people in their local area anonymously, because a lot of people on Yik Yak are people with social anxiety, and they go to Yik Yak to talk to other people that they have no idea who these people are, but they talk to them because they can get over their anxiety there. They don't worry about being judged and such. And so we're trying to look primarily at that same customer base, where it's people who would be using an app a lot, who are likely to take advice from a machine learning model, and they're going to be on the younger side. They're going to have social anxiety and such.
So are the participants using the app, are they speaking to one another, or is it like a video chat, or are they texting one another?
So it's starting off with texting, and then once we can build enough machine learning, enough of the machine learning model, we're going to convert over into deep learning, which then just allows us to make much better suggestions and such. And then we'll elevate it into audio chats, and then eventually into video chats, where you could talk to people and you would get feedback based on your facial cues and such as well. But we have to start off small just to build the machine learning model in the beginning stages.
Is there evidence that that this progression will actually address social anxiety?
There is, so we've talked to several psychiatric health professionals, mostly therapists, that have said that they believe that this would be very beneficial for people who are socially anxious and would like to move forward developing their social anxiety. We've also done customer discovery, which shows that people who are socially anxious would value the social skills. Whether or not the actual video calls versus text messages would make much of a difference, we don't have much evidence for that at this point. So that's why we're primarily just targeting the text messages, much more feasible for us to get launched and going forward.
The in-person,
Yes.
is that the video part of that, or is
No.
there actually in-person gathering?
In-person gathering. So the idea there is that you could say you can look you would be on our app, you would be able to find where there are location-based social skills groups. There's none in the area, so you say, I'm going to create one. So now you create one, and other users who see that now want to come. You pick when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and now, or whoever starts it initially can create that. And then people can start joining, and they just come in person and meet up. And it would be all people who are in the local area who are socially anxious and are looking to bridge that gap there. And so it's dual purpose, because you can start expanding these social skills into real person interactions. You can practice with each other, you can simulate these experiences, but you can also gain friends who are also in the same situation you are and be able to have them as a social support network going forward.
I'll ask my classic question here. So what does this company look like in 5 years?
In 5 years from now, we will have the text-based system running completely. We'll be in audio as well, and we will be working ideally with insurance companies to be able to get this as an approved care for patients who have social anxiety. We will probably have over 100,000 users at that point. We'll be having ads revenue that'll be coming in at a cost per click of 10 cents per user. We will be making hundreds of thousands of dollars just on revenue from the average user, making 10 cents per month per 10 cents per month per user. We'll be making over hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. And we'll be bringing in, ideally, a fair amount of revenue from insurance companies as well. We'll create multiple levels of access for people who want to have a premium access through an insurance company versus people who want to be able to talk to each other just casually and just get the ads interface as well.
I question the hypothesis that texting somebody could be transformative for somebody who would much rather text than actually speak to or be face-to-face with somebody else. It's a question.
Sorry, I would love to reply to that, but my time's up.
Cool. All right, so our startup is Monet. We make art collecting easier and much more engaging. So what the art market is not is definitely empowering. Galleries will charge their artists 50% of the profits they make, and auction houses will not give royalties to the artist. So there are some cases where the artists themselves cannot afford their own work. And it is definitely not connected. There's no place or platform for emerging artists and art enthusiasts to connect and share their thoughts together. And it's definitely not democratic. I'm sure you've heard of artworks going for millions and millions of dollars, and it's very exclusive and reserved for the ultra wealthy. So the reason the artworks go for such high values is because of these top 5 metrics. The provenance, meaning who previously owned the artwork, and the exhibition history, the artist's reputation, and so forth. And so the art expert will then decide to overvalue or undervalue the artwork depending on the market conditions, determining its price appreciation. And that is exactly how our machine learning model is going to work to find the artworks with the highest potential. Once we've done that, we will purchase the artwork and then securitize it by filing it with the ICC, creating shares. So now we can all collectively own a piece in that painting. And we can open trading on our platform. But unlike our competitors and other bigger institutions, we will, instead of storing the painting and waiting for it to appreciate in value, we will lend it out to museums and galleries at an interest rate, and you get to collect that in the forms of dividends. And then we will decide to sell it to a private seller or an auction house. And so this is a quick demo. You can see, you can browse through a selection of artworks. You can see the first one's at $19 a share. And you can learn more about the specific artwork, the artist, any investment metrics related to that artwork. And when you're ready to purchase, you can see exactly how much goes to that artist in royalties. And you could be funding the next Picasso or Basquiat and so forth. And once you've purchased shares, you can then display it in your virtual gallery where you can share with your friends and launch your own online exhibitions. As cool as that is, though, you can also go to a museum and see the artwork. I mean, when were you able to go to a gallery and say, I own a piece in that painting? And yeah, so secret sauce. We really want to bring all the values that art can bring to people, whether it's the financial returns, so we target retail investors. We really want to emphasize the importance of the emotional and social aspect that art can bring to people. And so we want to provide a platform for art enthusiasts and artists to connect.
Particle and Masterworks are our main direct competitors. However, they are purely financially driven. Unlike our competitors, we are trying to create a seamless process from user sign-up to user experience on our platform. And additionally, we're trying to tackle the emerging artist market. Paul Graham famously wrote about hackers and painters and how they are both makers. As computer scientists, we have a strong passion for art. This passion, along with the help of an art expert, will help us guide us through the art market and deliver this product to market faster. So far, we have interviewed 70 potential customers. We have also launched an MVP as a landing page with a call to action to sign up for our forum. And we have also started developing the UI, and we have also started reaching out to art collectors for potential art pieces from the emerging market that we could purchase for our platform. So in terms of funding, we do need money to access the art database to train our ML models. We also need to pay a securities lawyer to securitize each piece that we hold on our platform. And we also need money to buy emerging art pieces.
And just to end it, what we're really trying to do is capture what everybody loves about art, whether it's the financial returns, the community, or you just love art in general. We provide all that for you on one platform. And that is a quote that Claude Monet said, which is a huge inspiration for our company. And I think it really relates to our mission. Thank you very much.
So as I understand it, there's a few pieces to this model. It's very interesting. You will buy a piece of art, you'll store it, you will sell shares in it, and then you will act as a manager of that artwork and shop it out to museums and other exhibition spaces and make money from exhibiting that, and then you pay a dividend to the shareholders each time it's exhibited. Where am I wrong? Where am I right in all that?
So you're not exactly right in terms that we don't store the painting. That is what our competitors and other art investors do. We really want everyone to enjoy the artwork. So instead of storing it, we will lend it to museums and galleries for everyone to enjoy. But yes, in the forms that we do purchase the artwork, we lend it, create shares so people can purchase it on the platform, but also enjoy it in person.
So you bought it from
Yes.
a gallery or
directly from the
agent or
artist
from
or-
the artist. You will have to immediately find a
Securitize
place, securitize it,
Yes.
and have lined up a place to store it.
Yes, in case no art gallery or museum would want it, but the alternative would be to lend it out to them.
And then you making money when it is exhibited?
Yes.
And that's the money that is paid in dividends to the shareholders?
Yes.
Do you have a sense of what you can get per exhibition?
Yeah, so the current standard is 3.5%. This is what all other artists are doing in other galleries. So, yeah.
I guess, yeah, that's interesting. I was kind of asking, though, how much money would the company and then the shareholders be paid cumulatively per exhibition each time that a piece is? And I'm sure that varies according to the artwork, but
Exactly.
can you give me a sense of what you're talking? What
Right.
you might be
So
talking
it really depends on the price appreciation rate of the artwork, but we're really thinking of dividing it as 70% of the profits goes directly to the shareholders, 20% goes to us, the founders and the team, as a service fee, and then 10% goes to institutional investors.
So I'm still a little confused about where the art actually is. So you buy it from the artist, and then it goes, hopefully, to an exhibition someplace, in a museum, in a gallery, and
Right.
at a university, whatever, and for a certain period of time, and they pay a fee for that. And so as an investor, I own some shares in that piece of art, and the revenue that the exhibitions generate then becomes my dividend over time, once the cost of the art is.
Not what the specific exhibition or like the gallery makes, but what we make from lending it to
Yes.
them. Yes.
Yep, got it.
Can you tell me how this sort of meets one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
Right. So we really want to emphasize that we're not only helping people generate wealth by investing in the art market, but we really want to teach people more about art and fund the next potential Picasso or Basquiat and help these emerging artists, move along their artistic journey and further their career in that way.
So help me understand what my colleagues here were aptly asking sort of was just about the revenue flow, right? How does that happen? Maybe I missed it, but I don't think I heard you talk a lot about how the artist gets paid, because I feel like you're creating a secondary market, right? You bought the art from the artist. Now Monet owns it, or Monet's shareholders own it. How does the
How does the artist specifically profit off of it?
Yeah.
Yes. So we will purchase the artwork from the artist. So they will get all that money, depending on how their lawyers or team works. They'll separate between them. But we will pay them the full amount of their artwork, but we'll also pay them royalties every time shares are bought. And that has never been done in the US for auction houses. It was only done in Europe. So we're bringing that market here in the US.
And do you have a percentage of each share that would go to the artist?
Yeah, so the industry standard is 4.6% of every share.
And people can sell their shares at any time?
Yes, we do
So they're
have
entirely liquid.
Yes, we have a bidding option as well where you can sell your shares in that way. Yes.
I've got so many questions.
Please.
Can I jump in?
Yeah,
Is
go
that
ahead,
right?
go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about your MVP and what your results have been thus far?
Right,
Yeah, so far it's just a landing page and just people signing up for the Founders Club, kind of where they're like incentivized, like when we do launch it to market, to actually get a free incentive like an NFT or a free share. So we recently released it 2 weeks ago. I think we maybe have 5 or 10 signups thus far.
How are you sort of drawing folks to you at
We're
this
just
juncture?
kind of just reaching out to friends and families and also just random people just kind of tossing it out there. Also, I tried Reddit, but Reddit's a bit difficult with forums because I do auto-ban you if you do try to sell your idea, depending on what subreddit it is.
Is this already being done someplace else? Is there a prototype in another business for this?
So for our specific idea,
Yes.
not that I've heard of. Everyone or all the competitors that are currently on the market is purely financially driven, and they ignore all other aspects that art can bring to a person, which is the social, the community, and the emotional value. And we really want to put that on one platform.
And to add, like, I think the biggest direct competitor, I said earlier, Masterworks. However, I was mentioning like a seamless process, kind of like Robinhood, when you sign up and use the platform. The thing with Masterworks is you have to set up a meeting, and they're kind of looking for higher end clientele for the art pieces they do have on their platform. As for Particle, it's more in the form of NFTs, but what we're trying to do is more just tackle the emerging art market, but also kind of bring a more unique social value to it by giving these VR kind of exhibitions for the art pieces you do own.
But you're not going to be buying NFTs. You're buying existing physical art, right?
Yeah,
You may
physical
just
art.
give an NFT to someone who buys a share or something like that.
Right.
Okay. Are you using dollar currencies here? Have you? I mean, it sounds like you could almost create a crypto coin around this project. If
Like the Monet coin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
essentially it is going to be dollar driven, but the NFT aspect of it would be like a free incentive, just maybe grow the hype of it, but it'd be like just tied to the name of Monet, something to just get people to sign up. But it doesn't have actually value to the art itself. That's all. Our main business would be using dollars.
And you've mentioned several times emerging artists. Talk to me about what that looks like to you. How are you defining an emerging artist?
Right, so the way you define an emerging versus an established artist really depends on their primary market. And so if there's no primary market for that artist, they're therefore emerging. And we've been working with our art expert and lawyer to find those artists and reach out to them. And because most of the sales of art is done privately, you really have to have the connections in the market to find what is available.
How confident are you that you can get the artwork that you buy into galleries, museums, university galleries, etc.?
It really, really depends on on the specific artwork we're talking about and the trends that are happening in the market. And so if we notice that modern art is what people like nowadays, or the specific gallery is looking for, we will invest in emerging artists that are in that movement, and we're really looking at the galleries' trends and likes and whatever they're into to find those artists to help them enter those galleries.
So it sounds like you're looking at creating a market for emerging artists. Basically, you decide what's a marketable piece of art or artist, and then you go find places because they are not already associated with a gallery, or they don't already have representation. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. They can still have representation, but they're not at a state in their career where they would like to be, because there's a very few galleries that really promotes and increases the price of their artwork. So we're going to help them in that way, benefiting their career and moving them forward.
Just one comment about the question that you asked about the relation to the SDGs. There are those in the world, I would point to a group called Upstart Collab that is very focused on bringing the creative economy, which represents a huge percentage of the economy around the world, in every country of the world, and is generally unrecognized for its importance, both in a social impact context as well as in an economic context, to the fore and to as a thing. And so some would argue that that's missing from the SDGs. And as somebody who's spent a lot of time in the kind of creative industries, I value and respect the what's behind
Thank you.
your project.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.